Hi everyone, welcome back to AIQ, the Artificial Intelligence Quotient Podcast, a podcast series where we are trying to answer queries about general ML and data science stuff. So, in the fifth episode of AIQ, we will be talking about how one can shift from the MLOps field into the data science field, what is MLOps, and some other associations between MLOps and data science. So for this, I have a very dear friend of mine who has recently shifted from MLOps to data science field. So I think he is the best guy to answer on this particular query. So let's get started. Let's welcome our guest and get started with the first question. So like the basic journal query that everyone has, the beginners in this field, is what actually is MLOps? Can you throw some light on, like in layman's term, what MLOps is and how is it different from data science?
Sure. Thanks, Mehul. Thanks for welcoming me. So about this question, what is MLOps, right? So as the name suggests, MLOps, that is machine learning operations, right? So there is one part is about the data science and machine learning, how you are training the machine learning models on different algorithms, and there is another part, how exactly what you do after the training part, right? How you make the use of it, or how you deploy them, what's the pipeline which is being used for the deployment, or how can you make the use of it by doing the inference, right? So how you do that exactly. So there the MLOps comes in. Once you train the machine learning model, right, you have to productionize it. And how do you exactly do that? Either you have to deploy it to a cloud service or on the on-premise service, right? There are certain tools and services available as the open source, as a paid service that you can use to do these things, right? We know Docker, we have Kubernetes, we do have Flask and Fast API frameworks, right? That we basically can use to create a web application for serving our ML models, right, for the inference purpose. So in a nutshell, I would say MLOps is the part which comes after the training has been done for the models, the productionization and making the use of machine learning models or the deep learning models or maybe the Gen AI. That's called MLOps.
Very well summarized. I think the listeners would be able to now differentiate how MLOps is different from data science. A very interesting query, like something that I'm also a bit curious about. Why did you shift it from MLOps to data science? What was the core reason behind?
Okay. Personally, I would say I was very much interested in data science from the beginning. Eventually, I participated in a lot of hackathons openly posted on Kaggle. There are some new websites like docship.io, other websites like HackerEarth. These websites posted certain hackathons by different companies and organizations. At that time, it was quite, I would say, unclear to me on the terms of the positions like the ML engineer or the data sciences or the data engineering, how exactly the differentiation between these fields is, right? So time I was quite unclear on that part, and I eventually shifted to ML engineer role. And here I learned quite a lot of things, like how exactly the CI/CD pipelines work, continuous integration and continuous development delivery, right? So, but my heart basically lies towards the data science more. And eventually, I shifted to that because all along my journey, I have been solving these kinds of problem statements, whether in the organization, if I'm getting a chance, or outside the organization, if I'm getting some kind of freelancing or I'm getting some kind of hackathons or the open use cases.
Yeah, so I think I'm able to understand your story. Yeah. So whatever you have told about MLOps, what is my understanding is you won't be having any modeling sort of an experience. You won't be exploring the data in MLOps, right? It's more towards the engineering side of the data science models, if I'm correct. So what I'm asking is, what is my understanding is MLOps is more closer to software engineering than data science and AI. So is my assumption correct?
Yes, you are correct at a certain scale, because what I have experienced in my MLOps journey is we used to develop certain applications using Flask API or the Fast API, right? These are the frameworks by which you can basically create the applications, because I would say in a POC stage, mostly what data scientists do, they use Streamlit, right? They can use Gradio. These are the frameworks for the POC stages, right? They are not very scalable. So once you develop these POCs, then you go for the productionization, right? And you approach the operational team, that's MLOps team, right? So that we want to go for the production. We have this model developed for this particular use case, and how exactly we want to use it, that you convey, right? And according to that, we develop the a kind of wrappers, right? That's the application around the ML models and for serving it. So it's kind of scalable. You can deploy it on services like AWS, GCP. You can deploy it using PCF. PCF is nothing but the Pivotal Cloud Foundry. So these are certain services that could be used for deployment, which are kind of having the scalability, the load balancing whenever needed, right? So
yeah, pretty interesting answer, to be honest, and a lot of new terms to listen. One important question that I get a lot on my Reddit as well and on my LinkedIn is, what is the technologies that you should know to switch from MLOps and data science? So if I give you a brief, I have an assumption that when you are in MLOps, you already have a basic tech stack ready for data science. What are the extra things you need to know to switch to the field?
Okay. Okay. So for switching from MLOps to data science, I would say it's not very difficult, because along the journey you have the knowledge of, if you have the knowledge of productionizing the models, that's how they work, right, behind the scene, then only you will be able to productionize them, right? So until or unless you if you have that idea how they are working, right, what's going behind the scene, you have the knowledge how the algorithm works. Let's say if I'm talking about the random forest or the tree based algorithms or the other algorithms like boosting algorithms, right, how they are working behind the scene. If you have that idea how the mathematics work, how the basic intuition is behind the scene, how exactly are the labels being basically used for the training, how the inference is being, all these things will get you some idea, what's going into the data science part, right? Apart from that, keeping yourself updated, that's the most important part, because for now I would say for the last 2 years we have been seeing a rapid advancement in terms of new technologies, right, in the field of AI. That is Gen AI, definitely. That's the fancy term that we use. So that's what I think is important. It's not a big deal to move to data science. If you have kind of overview or even a basic knowledge of that, it's
nice.
Good.
I think nicely summarized for the listeners. That I think we in our previous episodes also mentioned the same thing, that switching between data jobs is not that a difficult part. So you just need to tweak a little and you should be able to get in. So thank you so much, Aditya, for this lovely insights. One very important question that I would love to ask is how the tech stack changes when you are working in MLOps team and now you're working in the data science team. How the tools have changed for you, and how comfortable are you with that?
Okay, that's a great question. Summing it up, I would say while being in MLOps, I have been more into the frameworks, right? How I'm basically creating the applications that will be on any kind of framework. It could be Flask or Fast API, it could be some other. For example, recently I discovered Google launched a new framework that's MESOP that could also be used for creating the applications, right? There are other ways to create. For example, Django could also be used, but it's more towards the Python development. So in ML, mostly frameworks like Flask and Fast APIs are widely used. So because they have this Swagger service, which could be either embedded or they already have embedded. So in case of Flask API, we can embed the Swagger service, and in case of Fast API, it's already embedded. Other than that, what is Swagger? I would just briefly define. It's a kind of a dashboard interface, front-end interface, which can show you what all endpoints are available in your particular application. We have these get, put, post, all these endpoints, right? So we can view those endpoints, we can try the inference. It's a kind of mimicking the Postman. We have this Postman application, right? It can mimic it. Other than that, I have also used Amazon AWS SageMaker for experimenting with whatever workflow that has been provided from the data science team, right? To just check how exactly they're performing on the cloud, right?
Yeah.
These are other services. Other than that, I have also been interacting with the CI/CD pipelines. So these are the scripts which are basically made using the Groovy. That's the programming language that is used for making these scripts. They have this pipeline structure. So you have Jenkins, right? In Jenkins, you see when you it's a SDLC2 pipeline, right? Software development lifecycle. So you have different stages in the pipeline, right? From the beginning, you have a GitHub repo or a Bitbucket repo or the GitLab repo, right? Where you have your code present. So it picks up the code from there. It clones the repository. That's the first stage. Then it checks for certain compliance related to SDLC2. That's the second stage. Then it moves on with the setup stage, like installing the dependencies, etc. Then it moves to other stages like checking the code, linting score, checking for the unit test, and then basically packaging it, testing the package, whether it is able to run or not. So it's a kind of complete pipeline, right? And behind the scene, there is a Groovy script that performs all these things. And other than that, definitely right now, if you're working in any, let's say if you're working in any mid-sized company or a startup, which is widely using the cloud services like AWS, Azure or GCP. So over there, you'll have wide variety of tools for doing all this. But in my case, let's say if I'm in banking, right? We don't have these services exposed to us because of some security issues or the reasons, right? For particular projects. So we have on-premise cloud for this.
Okay.
So here I have been using PCF, that's Pivotal Cloud Foundry, right? So we have it for deploying our Flask or Fast API applications for inferencing, right? It already has the load balancing flexibilities. It has the scalability. It can create a bigger cluster or the smaller cluster depending on the need. So it has that flexibility. So these are some of the services in a nutshell that I have been using in the MLOps. Other than that, when I move to data science, it's completely different.
Yeah.
All of this is gone. You directly deal with the Jupyter notebooks. You directly deal with the Python libraries, right? From the very scratch, like Pandas, NumPy, SciPy, Matplotlib, Seaborn. You have AutoML libraries like PyCaret. You can also use the in-house built libraries that you have within your organizations. You have, I would say, you have multiple tools that you can use. Like, for example, if you're going for Gen AI, you have different APIs, right? Related to whether it is a Google's LLM or the Hugging Face or it's Microsoft's, etc. Right? We have NVIDIA as well right now. So these are the changes that basically occur when you move from that field to data science. Other than that,
So what is my understanding? There is not a single overlap. So whatever, like you read a certain set of tools and framework and concepts, and now it has completely changed. Nice to know.
right?
Yeah. So one last question before we wrap this up is especially like towards the beginners. So if there is a new grad coming out of college, which stream would you ask him to join? Like which one is more fruitful in terms of everything, in terms of exploration, in terms of pay? Which looks a more lucrative field to you? MLOps or data science or data engineering, whatever you all know.
Okay, that's a good question. I would say it all depends on how enthusiastic you are towards what thing, basically. Whether it's data that you are most interested in, whether it is the tools that you are interested in, or whether it's in the pipelines or big data management, right? It all depends on that. First of all, if you are very good with the libraries, the mathematical, very mathematically intuitive libraries such as like Pandas, NumPy, SciPy, Stats, etc. Right? If you're good with these, definitely you're good with the data, right? You can pre-process it, you can find the trends, you can find the patterns, the hidden insights in the data. You can do that data storytelling, right? That's a very important part of a data scientist work, right? So I would suggest in that case, it will be very good for you if you go for the data scientist role. If you have a very good understanding or very good enthusiasm towards big data management, how exactly you are performing the managing the PySpark clusters or using the Spark for managing the ETL pipelines, etc. Right? You're good with all those things and you have the interest, right? Then definitely you can go for the data engineering field. MLOps is a bit on the edge of out of all these, I would say, if you have interest in the frameworks,
Yeah.
right? Frameworks such as I already told you, different kinds of application frameworks. If you have interest in the CI/CD pipelines, if you have interest in the cloud technologies, how to deploy the models, how to deploy the pipelines, how to use certain tools and services within the cloud, definitely you can go for ML engineer. There is one more role, that is business analyst, right? We have heard it often.
Yeah.
If you have a good understanding and very much interested in using tools like Power BI, Tableau, SAS is the tool that I have used in my past organization for visualizing, then creating the reports. So it's a very powerful tool, just like Tableau and Power BI. So if you have interest in those and you're very good at it, you can go for business analyst. That's my suggestion for the people who are fresh graduates and who have been pursuing these fields, I would say.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think it was a very insightful session. To be honest, I myself was not knowing much about MLOps and came to know about a lot of new terms today. So I will definitely go and Google that out. So with this, we will be wrapping our fifth episode on AIQ. Do drop down your ideas, comments, what topics you wish us to cover, and we will be coming back soon shortly. Thank you so much.